guys hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, so we have some t-shirts for you guys back there. Some of you guys know the drill and you already helped yourselves, which is great. They are for adults, so let's make sure all the adults get one who want one, and make sure not to be bashful. Get out there and get one, because your size will disappear before long. And aren't they cool?
They're so cool.
They cool? So I apologize. They say Vital Jiu-Jitsu on the back. I had to order them through my company in order to get this cool stuff. It's a whole thing. But for those of you who are part of the academy, you're like, hey, cool. But I didn't mean that to do that to the rest of you guys. But welcome to the family, all the same. Yeah. Well, welcome to the family.
Come see what we're about.
Yeah. Come see what this is all about. Okay. So I'm really glad that we get to have our older kids, our big kids up here today. I was really hoping that we'd be able to give them this message. I hope parents that as they go up and downstairs throughout the series that you watch this together with them on YouTube, and you'll understand why as we go through this information. So why now? Why August? Well, we've been doing a lot of faith work. For you guys who have been attending week by week, you know that we've been really plowing the earth with faith. I've been really challenging you guys to activate and really trying to infect you, to be right honest with you guys. I've been trying to infect you guys with the spirit of faith. I'm just trying to be as contagious as possible. I've been scratching every itch, you know what I mean? And I've been like rubbing and breathing in your environment. Some of you guys are like, get that guy a mint.
That's what faith.
Like Tic Tacs. So I wanted to take a little break. We've been plowing that hard earth. And if you guys have been doing the work of it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We've been plowing down pretty hard for about 6 months. So I thought we could take a little break. Yeah, I know you guys love the faith train, and we're all about it. But sometimes it's good. Sometimes Coach needs to be the one who's like, hey, let's bring it in for a hot second. Let's do something fun for a minute. Let's maybe remember why we love this so much. You know, because we do love the work, but we don't want to get bogged down in all the work, you know? So I wanted to take a little break, and I was so thankful. Your deco crew, especially Mrs. Kirk, did such a great job getting the sanctuary looking cool. Yeah, we've got a solar system going on up here. She's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, do anything like creation related, like whatever. She's like, I want to do space. I'm like, let's do it. Let's do space. She's like, now I got to figure out how to get planets in here. How do I get planets? She was just back there scheming one day. She's just looking around. I'm like, are you okay? She's like, I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to do this. So I think you did a great job. Of course, we got Tantor back on stage. He got a little trim, but there he is. So that's cool. Yeah, very cool. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. I would love for you guys to go check out that diorama up in the lobby. It spins, so spin it gently. You don't want to spin it off the table, but have a look at the whole thing. It's designed to look at 360. How many of you guys already looked at that when you came in? Cool. So have a look at that. I won't spoil it for you this week, but it's just like different things in there. I mean, you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. Just look at it. You'll figure it out.
You did it great.
Oh, thank you so much. The first one is an absolute disaster. I tried to do paper mache. You guys probably are not interested in this, but let me just close your eyes, and I want you to imagine a third grade science fair volcano. Got it? That's what the first one looked like. Okay, so yep, that one went in the trash, and that was back to the drawing board. But anyways, I hope that you guys enjoy it, and thank you. I'm really glad that we have our littles in here, because I really want to share with you guys some truths about creation. And honestly, when I started writing the series, I was like, oh man, like this could be a lifetime. You could spend a lifetime talking about creation. We could do this every week. There's so much information. So you could imagine the task it was to kind of boil this down into I don't know that that's my heart's call to be the creation guy. I definitely want to talk about it, but I can't spend the rest of my career talking unless the Holy Spirit wanted me to, which I didn't get the feeling that he did. So I kind of boiled this down into just a few short messages that I'm going to do back to back to back, so that you guys can get a big chunk. I am going to scratch the surface, and I'm warning you from this pulpit, I'm only scratching the surface, and I'm doing that on purpose. I'm hoping to pique your interest. I'm hoping to provoke you into wanting to go deeper yourself. And I can give you some of the individuals that I think are experts where creation is concerned if you want to get more detailed answers. But there's a lot of stuff that we're going to kind of have to gloss over or fast forward through. And my apologies for that if it seems a little haphazard. I don't mean it to seem haphazard, but there's no way we can talk about it in great depth unless we spend weeks and weeks and weeks on it, which would be a great use of our time. However, I want to give you the honor of digging and studying. And not to say that you're not going to learn anything. You're going to learn some really good stuff here. So way back in 2004, okay, so it's way further back for some of you than it is others. For others, we're like, 2004, wasn't that like last week? Yeah. No, it wasn't. It was forever ago. So there was a group of bold visionaries who began undertaking a seemingly impossible task. And that's the one thing that I love about God is when we try to do impossible tasks, God's like, I'm about that. I'm in that. Let's go. You and me. Let's do this. Yeah. And so they wanted to create a full-size replica of the ark. And the ark cost a total of $91 million. None of it subsidized, none of it funded by any government group. These were private these are private people, like a group of visionaries who were able to come together. Some of them had a lot of means. Some of them knew how to acquire a lot of means, or they knew the people they could talk to and share this vision with. And then just 12 years later, in 2016, it was finally done. And for me, I don't know about you guys, but for me, and I'll explain why this is so meaningful to me. I'll explain why a little bit later. This message isn't about me, so I just want to be careful with that. But it was especially meaningful to me. I watched this project go on, and as you can imagine, a project of this scope and this size, $91 million, you're talking about a lot of hands involved, a lot of people, a lot of moving parts. In the middle of it, we had the same thing that we have of every project, like, oh gosh, is this going to get done? Did we overshoot? Do we have the funding? Is this even possible? Maybe we should cut it in half. Like, let's talk about it. But they got it done. And then, so after that, it was like 2016, we were like so stoked, but it wasn't until 2023. In 2023, Pastor Tanya and I finally had the opportunity to go explore both the Creation Museum and the Ark Encounter. And so here we are at the Ark Encounter. Tanya's trying to open the door. I'm trying to keep it closed so you can tell which side of which team we're on. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't really going to do this, but I want to. So I belong to on Facebook, like you guys. I'm involved in some groups, right? And one of the groups I'm in is it's called Motorcyclist Map, and it's basically a bunch of us from all over the nation, and we get on. We tell each other where the best rides are. Like, what are the best roads? You can go out for 2 hours or a weekend or 2 weeks or like whatever the thing is. So there's thousands of people on this particular group. I don't know any of them personally. But one of them posted a picture of he and his wife in front of the ark, which I'll show you another picture in a minute. And he said, hey, we finally made it on our, because they're doing a big motorcycle trip, so we're all following them, right? Like across America. Hey, we finally made it to the ark. That's it. That's all they said. You guys, that thread exploded. All they said was, hey, we made it to the ark. And I'm scrolling through. They had to shut it off after like 700 comments. But I'm going through, and it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag, but mostly it's hate. Like a lot. All they did was post a picture of the ark, and people are like, I'm going to read some of them to you. Some of them I'm not going to read to you because they're loaded with bad words. Not that you guys have ever heard those before, but
Thank you.
Yeah. So some of them are positive, some of them are negative. I'm going to read a mix of them just so you can see what's going on. All right. So this first guy, his name's Enoch, interestingly enough, but he said, yeah. And so his comment was like overall about why there was, because I was scrolling through, I was like, why is there so much hate? It wasn't like, they weren't like, hey, y'all need Jesus, turn or burn. Like they weren't on a soapbox of any kind. They were just like, hey, here's us in the ark and our motorcycle. And that, like all this hate. So this guy says, how on earth are people so triggered by a guy who's not even preaching and just said he made a stop at the Ark encounter? Laugh out loud. He's just trying to be cool. So that guy was like, I don't understand this. And so this other guy named Steve, there's a lot of Steves in this group for some reason. But yeah, bloody Steve. What's Steve got to do with it? Steve says, he says it's a big deal because it's as if they stopped at the North Pole and saw elves running around. I mean, we're all motorcyclists. We're smart enough to know that this stuff didn't really happen. Adam wasn't created out of thin air, and he wasn't just placed here, and Eve wasn't created from his rib. And if that's the case, why does every painting or depiction show them with belly buttons? Ironclad argument right there. Okay. So I know it's funny. I get it. It's funny, but I don't mean to guys, this is where people are at. Okay? And I know I had a hard time kind of laughing at some of this stuff too, but I'm like, okay, I mean, we could dismantle that argument in about, 7 ways from Sunday. That's my father would say. This guy says they're probably scared of judgment, and that's exactly why they're getting so triggered. I was like, yeah, go you. And this guy says, oh, they fit 1 million different species in there? Okay, sure thing. Laugh out loud, smiley face. Andrew said, it's amazing how the world has evolved since it was only created 6,000 years ago. Ha, ha, ha. Right? Like we're idiots. Okay. This guy says this is such a BS story. Another guy says, yeah, that's exactly what they told Noah until it started to rain. I was like, yeah, I like that, Steve. Who's that, Steve? Yeah.
That Steve's my friend.
Yeah, that Steve and I are going to be buddies. All right. Then this guy, check this is another faulty argument here, but he says, it sustained rain damage a few years ago. The Ark people tried to sue their insurance company. I can't even make this stuff up. This guy says, I know. Just hold on, because it gets worse. This other guy replies that, another Steve, replies that. He says, wait, rain damage on a boat that supposedly survived 40 days and 40 nights on the rain? On a planet that was completely covered by water? Got it. Okay, so first of all, Steve. That boat was on the water for a year. Not 40 days and 40 nights. And the Ark Encounter is a museum.
Yeah.
You guys got that? Yeah. Okay, it looks like a boat. It's not a boat. It's a museum. All right. So. Man, seriously, all these Stevens. What an awesome place. My wife and I visited the Ark in 2021. Yeah, I'd go with you. This guy said right underneath it, not so good. He said I was going to go too, but I decided to save time and just set $50 on fire. This guy says, absolutely ridiculous. What a waste of taxpayers' money. So, okay, so not one tax cent went to this project. This is all privately funded. And I think somebody actually said that. Here's a guy named Keith. He said, the one common factor among every negative comment about the Ark Encounter is that every critic doesn't know a thing about what he's talking about and would greatly benefit by going. Yep, dropping that mic, Keith. All right, Tommy says, got this one knocked off my bucket list. What an amazing accomplishment to see this at full scale. Bob Grooms says, this ark is pretty cool. I mean, I guess among all the arks, this would be the cool one, Then Julius says, love it, such an amazing experience. There's food and all kinds of stuff to do. This guy, not so positive, he quoted a song, Do You Believe in Magic? And some other songs come to mind too, laugh out loud. And then I think John Green had the most cogent comment in the whole text thread, and he said, for the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the very power of God. And I was like, John, I'm gonna be your friend. Okay, I'm be your friend. Okay, so that wasn't part of my message, but I wanted to take a moment to share that with you guys because it showed up on my feed yesterday. Oh. This is current. This is where the world is. They can't see the ark for what it was. And this is exactly why I wanted to teach you guys this and why I'm so excited that our littles are in the room with us, which they're actually the bigs now. But if the enemy can unravel Genesis 1 through 11, then everything in the Bible is up for grabs. The most powerful, the most meaningful, the most substantial scripture in your entire Bible is Genesis 1:1. Without Genesis 1:1, nothing else works. It's a foundation. Do you understand? And that's why the enemy works so hard. And that's why I wanted to share with you some of these things, because this isn't just a Christian problem. There are a lot of, and I'm going to talk about this, a lot of Christians who don't understand, who don't really get or don't believe or think like, oh, is this real? Is kind of hocus pocus. And we have just been, the enemy has been working overtime with story after story, theory after theory, lie after lie to get you to bite in on this. This awe-inspiring structure is filled with answers to so many questions in Genesis. So many questions. Which is important because half of the Christian population, guys, not the world, half of the Christian population, that's like half of this room. You know, if we just divided this room in half, guys, just like speaking on averages, have been duped into believing some form of Darwinism, which makes portions of Genesis myth rather than truth. And it's important that we understand that what happened in Genesis is the accurate account. Here's the reality, you guys. I can only verify that the earth has been in existence for about 46 years. Thank you. Yeah, if you're older than me, I got to take your word for it. Why? Because I wasn't here. You understand? Yeah. I wasn't here. So all of these theories, all of these ideas, all presented to you by people who weren't here. Wouldn't it be nice if there was somebody who was here? Wouldn't it be nice if there was somebody who was like, oh, I was an eyewitness. I watched all this happen. Wouldn't that be great for us? Then we could end all this argument. We can end all this debate about millions of years, or animals came from this, or, you know, they spawned on the backs of crystals, or like all these ideas that we get, or we're actually star particles, all these ideas that we have about that. Wouldn't it be amazing? Gosh, I wish we did. I wish we just had a first-hand witness who lived through it all. Oh, wait a minute. We do. We do. Guess who was there? Who was there? God was there. Jesus was there. Nothing came into existence without him. He was there. And get this about this first-hand witness, because if you've ever been to court and you've had a witness who had something else in mind, that witness, even though they're under oath, they might lie a little bit, right? Try to make that person look better, try to get their friend off the hook, or whatever the case is. You know God can't lie. Wow. Hey, this is interesting now. Now we got something to work with. So we have a first-hand witness, and we also know that he can't lie. No? Okay, I think it's pretty cool. Yeah. I think it's good. Not only is he a first-hand witness, and not only can he not lie, but he carefully recorded everything so that we could understand, so that we could know, so that we could have the answers. Anyone who has doubted the literal history of the Bible should visit and pour through the Ark. They should go to the Ark Encounter. We went there. I had a whole host of questions. And I think some of my questions were pretty good. I'm like, oh, I got some stumpers. And we got in there, and not like the first 5 minutes, all my questions were done. I was like, oh, okay, well, these guys are so much smarter than me. And then you'd get to like a placard, and they'd be like, well, what if this happened? And they would ask the question, and I was like, I've never thought to ask that question, but that's a game ender. Like if an atheist asked that question, like that's it. Like and here's the answer. You're like, just like constantly having your mind blown, walking through like these amazing questions. Every question that you can imagine answered. And one of the themes that you'll find throughout the Ark Encounter is what they call the 7 C's of history, and I'm gonna go through these 7 C's. This is what I want to do with you guys today. I'm just gonna kind of give you an overview of what we're gonna do for the rest of the time here. So, The 7 C's of history are as such: creation, corruption, catastrophe, confusion, Christ, cross, consummation. There's a test at the end, so no, I'm just teasing. But we're going to talk about it. I had to use my notes too, but we're going to talk about it. So the first part of the series is going to be an overview, and then the subsequent messages, we're going to take a closer look at the pre-flood world. You guys are good. It's going to be awesome. We're going to look at the pre-flood world, dinosaurs, and the Tower of Babel. Really, really excited to share this stuff with you guys. Those are kind of like the 3 most highly contested truths in the Bible. So you guys remember me telling you that I was trying to figure out how I was going to boil this down into something that would be useful to us. I just thought we would start right here just to get the ball rolling, that we would start this conversation with the 3 most highly contested truths in Genesis. And all I could hear was my Bible teacher's voice ringing in the back of my ear saying, "David, you were created for confrontation." And I'm like, well, I'm going to pick the top 3, and that's what we're going to do. And here's what you're going to find. You're going to find that Genesis, number 1, is the true account of history. That's what you're going to learn in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Genesis is the true account of history. You're going to learn why that's important. Why does that even matter? You're going to learn that too. And number 3, you're going to learn how secularism has wormed its way into our reasoning and distorted the truth and deceived the masses. And here's the cool thing about it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Right. Once you see it, like, I'm a Nature Channel guy. Like, the Nature Channel's on, if the TV's on, it's either The Price is Right or the Nature Channel. Maybe some boring documentary, but yeah, it does get. But it, like, they'll say these hot words that stick out, you know. So let's just jump in. I'm just going to jump right in, okay? So how did we get to the flood in the first place? How did that happen? Well, it all starts with creation. So we read in Genesis 1 that God created everything in 6 literal 24-hour days. Okay, I know that sounds crazy, but that's not hard for an all-powerful God. That's not difficult for an all-powerful God. And we can actually work out the age of the earth. This is what's going to shock you, okay? Because you hear it all day, every day, even when you're not trying to hear it. You've heard about millions and millions and millions of years and cotillions and fulfillions and billions and all these things. I get it. But God was there. God wrote it down. God cannot lie. And God told us. Okay? So there was about 5 days to Adam. Okay? That's easy. 5 days. The earth is 5 days old. All right? Now, from Adam to Abraham gets a little bigger, 2,000 years. Abraham to Christ, another 2,000 years. Christ to today, about 2,000 years, 2,500 years, 2,000 years. So we know the earth is roughly 6,005 days. All right? 6,000 years old. Now, you guys might be like, that's not a lot. And I know why you're thinking that. You're thinking that because somebody said time. And what happens is evolutionists will use time like a magic wand. And they will just wave their magic wand over all the problems with their theories. Well, this creature turned into this creature. How? Time. You see, they make fun of us for talking about God, but they're doing what we say, well, God did it, and they go, oh, you're just using God. Well, you're just using time. Time is your God. Just waving your time wand over all the problems that you've created. I don't care how long you stretch the time scale. A monkey will never become a human. Right. And if you guys look at anything, if you guys have been around this earth, I haven't been around the earth a long time, but I can tell you that ain't nothing on this planet getting better. So in my opinion, whatever that's worth, we are degressing. Things aren't getting, we're like, oh, this is so much better all of a sudden. So we know that the earth is, according to God, 6,000 years old, about. And you guys might be like, well, that's not really a long time. Well, I don't know. I can only account for 46 of those years. How many of you guys ever, look, a lot can happen in a lifetime. Mary, we were just talking about all the stuff that's been going on in your lifetime. There's a lot that can happen in a lifetime, right? That's not a short amount of time. That's a long time. Guys, 6,000 years, that's plenty of time. That's a long time, right? We don't need to go, no, there's a million. It's not what God said. It's not what God said. It's time. And we're going to get more on these wands here in a minute. Okay? I brought some for you guys. Yeah. Thank you, Stacy. Yeah, so that's what happens is we're positively inundated with ideas that the earth is millions and millions and millions of years old. And those who believe that use time as this magic wand to cover all the gaping holes in that theory. And believe me, it takes more faith to believe in time than it does to believe in God. It takes more faith to do that. But they're just saying the lie loud enough, and they're saying it long enough, and they're repeating it enough that we get to saying it too. Come on, guys, we got to be smarter than this world that we're in. Amen. But the Word of God has answers to all those questions. All those questions that time cannot answer, the Word answers. Right. The Word answers all. There's not one question left unanswered in this Word. When it comes to this, God was careful to record it. So in Genesis 1, verse 31, we learn that God's original creation was not just good, it was very good. Creation was very good. In fact, it's nothing like it is today. Creation was amazing when it started. There's no disease, no death, no suffering. But guys, it didn't stay that way for very long. Enter corruption. Adam committed treason against God, releasing sin into the world. And the punishment was death. And according to Romans 8:22, all creation groans. All creation groans about that. Now, about 1,500 years after creation, we experienced catastrophe. It didn't take very long for us to foul this whole thing up. But we did. Yeah, yes. Genesis 6:5 says that every intent of the thoughts of man's heart was only evil continually. Guys, as bad as you think it is today, the government, the society, all the stuff. And I'm not saying those things aren't bad. They're bad. But they're nothing like they were in Noah's day. It's nowhere near as bad as it was in Noah's day. Noah had it the worst. Okay? So it's nothing like Noah's time. And even though it's bad, I'm not saying we should just be like, oh, cool, things are bad. But it's been a lot worse. Okay? Only Noah and his family and the animals were spared from the ark. Not his brothers or sisters, no one else. It was Noah and his family that were spared from that judgment. And this is where even well-meaning Christians begin to take issue. And I'm talking about the big three: the ark, the animals, and the flood itself. This is what's really, really challenging. And why the ark was very important to me. I remember as a very young man, I was probably 12 or 13, I was having a conversation with my dad, one of the few conversations that we got to share. He's a very busy guy, he's a work guy. We were having a conversation over breakfast. I was talking with him about creation, and he said to me, you don't actually believe all that Noah stuff, right? Like the animals on the ark, you don't actually believe that, do you? You know, and this was coming from my father, who is he is one of the most faithful and devout men that I know. Like, he is a faithful follower of God. And for him, it was one of those things where it's just like, well, we got all this science and we got all this like information, and we're just going to have to see when we get there. Like, I appreciated that it didn't affect his faith, but it was amazing to me that he was like, hey, you don't actually. Now, that's been a long time, guys. That was like when I was 12 or 13, so a lot of life has happened since then and a lot of change. But I remember when we got to the ark, I was like, I wish I could have brought Dad here with me, because I know he's got those things settled in his heart now, but so many answers. You look at it and you're like, oh, dude, like you walk around taking a sigh of relief. You're like, we're not idiots. Like this makes so much sense. Like, it hurts how much sense it makes. But these are the big three with Christians. So, you know, my father was in that camp at that point. He was in that camp with so many other Christians. Like, I believe in Jesus and I believe in God, but you know, I don't know. And that's why I included that in my little teaser video. Like, do you have to believe in these things? And can you believe in millions of years and still be a Christian? Yeah, sure you can, but I think it creates some other problems. And the reality is, none of us were there. Only God was there. So it's His word that we should trust because He was there. All right. So these are the big three that Christians struggle with when we're talking about creation: the ark, the animals, and the flood itself. I'm going to nail those down, boom, 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 and see where we get today. Okay. So for the sake of time, I'm only going to hit the most prominent arguments. So I know you might be sitting there, if you don't believe in this stuff, you might be sitting there going, well, what about this, and what about this, and what about this, and what about this? I can't take all, especially in this format, I can't try to address all those things, but I promise we didn't just throw a dart at the board and be like, cool, that's what we believe. This stuff is based in truth. Faith is not ignorant, and there's answers in the Word of God for all of these questions. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, how big was the ark? Oh, look at this ark. Everybody say, okay, look, I give it up to the artist here. He tried to get all the animals in there. Look at all 15 of them. But we got these elephants, they're barely hanging on. The giraffes got nowhere to go. They're like, come, I'll tell you when it stops raining. We got a little monkey hanging off here. My favorite part is how concerned everybody looks. Look, everybody's in a panic mode. Even Noah. Look at him. He's like, what are we going to do? Guys, the world is accustomed to seeing images of the ark like this. This is what we're accustomed to seeing, right? And this is as cute as it is. This is what I would call a blatant misrepresentation of the facts. Yeah. This is a blatant, right? This is a blatant misrepresentation of what actually happened. And this narrative is pushed on us through toys and storybooks and wall art. And it's directed at us from the very earliest age. And this is what happens. Grandma on Mother's Day wants all her kids to come to church, so they reluctantly go. They drag their kids, so their grandkids are in tow. They shuffle the grandkids off to the nursery, and the grandkids see a picture of the ark like this on the wall, and they never come to church again. And so they think they know all about the ark because of this picture that they saw, just like that guy who we read about that we all kind of laughed, like, well, the artists painted pictures of Adam with a belly button. Like, well, the artist probably didn't know Adam. Okay? Adam didn't actually pose for that art. I'm just saying, we can probably blow holes through that argument. You know what I mean? But this is the problem, guys. We see this, and we push it, and we push it, and we push it, and we push it. And this is our image. Guys, if this is your only image of the ark, I agree with you. Christians are nuts. If this is your idea of what happened, I agree with you. We're fools to think that this was somehow reality, that this was somehow how it all went down. It's not. We know what the ark looks like because God told us what it looks like. He described it, and he wasn't just like, it was a big brown boat. He described it in great detail. He gave us so many details that these guys were able to build one. That's how great the details were. That's pretty amazing, you guys. So the Ark Museum, this is the Ark Museum, but the Ark itself was measured in cubits. You guys ever see that word in the Bible? What's a cubit? A cubit is about 20 inches. 20.4. I don't know what a 0.4 of an inch is. Somebody who knows a tape measure could be able to tell me that. But just say it's 20 inches, okay? It's about like here. All right? So the ark was roughly 510 feet long, 85 feet wide, and 51 feet high. This is the largest freestanding timber frame structure in the world. Guys, here's what's mind-blowing. These dimensions happen to be the perfect match for a cargo ship. And in fact, this is going to blow your mind. Every shipbuilder in the world uses these dimensions, whether they scale it up or scale it down, because they are the perfect balance between comfort, strength, and stability. God is so cool. He is so cool. And knowing the size of the ark is important. And God knew it was important, and that's why He chose to record it for us. That's why he chose to write it down for us. And if Satan can convince us that the flood was not real, that he can convince us that heaven is not real, that sin is not real, that any other portion of the Bible is not real. He can convince us that it's all a myth. So, how did Noah actually get all those animals on the ark? This is the problem of the ages, or the question of the ages. How did he do it? If you consider the actual measurements of the ark's volume, it's equivalent to about 500 semi-trailers. That's a big number, right? 500 semi-trailers. Not the little ones, mind you, like the nice, long, big, healthy semi-trailer, okay? So 500 of them. That's quite a lot. And while that's a big number, guys, there's a lot of animals on the earth today. So even though 500 trucks, 500 semis, that's a lot of room. There's 8 million species of animals. So we have a problem. 8 million species of animals and 500 trucks, as impressive as that is, this is not working. Like something's happening. This is not going to work. Okay, so what happened? What actually went down? Well, first of all, Noah only had to bring land-dwelling, air-breathing animals and no sea creatures, according to Genesis 6:19 through 20. That's really, really important information because sea creatures make up a big chunk of the pie. They make up a really big chunk of how many animals we see on the earth today, and he didn't have to bring any of them. No duh. Right? Okay. So, yeah, they account for the largest share of the animal population. And it also likely doesn't include insects, although insects wouldn't have been a problem for the ark. He could have put a bunch of insects on the ark. But I assume that it didn't include insects, even though there's room for them, because just beetles alone count for millions and millions of species. Just beetles. So when you subtract like just insects and fish, like sea creatures out, you end up with a much, much smaller number. A number that makes like way more sense. And I don't have the little kid picture up there. There's no whales hanging off of that picture, which is really cool. So they got that one right. Good for them. Okay, so first we got to kind of cull down the numbers. Who was actually on the boat and who wasn't, right? So when we start culling these numbers, things really start to take reality. Okay, second, and really important, you guys, God brought to the ark young adult or juvenile animals. Doesn't that just make sense? Come on, this makes too much sense. Why would God bring giant, full-grown animals onto the ark? He brought smaller animals. They eat less, they produce less waste, and more importantly, these animals had a job to do when the ark landed. Do you guys remember what the job was? To repopulate the earth. Their job was so why would he bring some old animals on there? It's like some old bull. It's like, I gotta, okay. Now he's going to bring these young animals who are like, they're viable. They're going to produce. Just keep it all PG here. We've all seen National Geographic, whatever. So they're going to do the job that needs to be done in order to repopulate this world. So that's I know what you're thinking, right? That's still a lot of animals. Like there's like so many animals on the earth, and I don't know. Maybe not really, because the third and most important, and this is what's really important. This is what you're going to learn over and over and over again, is that the word that God told Noah to take the kind. He said take 2 of each kind of animal and not 2 of each species of animal. Okay? That word kind is repeated over and over and over throughout Genesis. So let's go back to high school science biology right here. I don't know if you guys was my favorite in school. So this makes a lot of sense to me right here. This is how we classify organisms. Okay? So we classify them by what? Domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, right? So that word kind is what we have labeled up here, family. See that? So we're just 3 levels up from the red domain, that would be like the most amount of animals. And that trails down to the least amount of animals. That makes sense? That's why I put this pyramid upside down. Okay, so we're dealing with this word kind, which is labeled here as family. Okay, so as an example, my favorite creation, dogs, all belong to the family we call Canidae. That's the family that they belong in. Okay, so fox, wolves, coyotes, dingoes. my little Alaskan Klekai right here. Look at that little dude up there. He's going to be 1 on Tuesday. Yeah, it's going to be his birthday. It's going to be awesome. Guys, all of these animals, from a timber wolf, this Arctic wolf, all the way down to cutie little Kyber over here in Pixel, all the way down to these guys, they all belong to Canidae, right? But once you go above family, let me go back to this slide. Once you go above family, then something starts to happen here. You lose some breeding capability. Okay, so family or kind is the smallest class. It's almost like God knew what he was doing. It's the smallest class in which they still have the ability to repopulate the earth. If you go smaller than that, they can't do it. So that was the smallest class that they needed. Isn't God cool? He's so cool. Okay, so today, this day, 2024, to my delight, we have over 4,000 breeds of dogs. Or I'm sorry. What did I say? 1,000? I didn't mean to say 1,000. Excuse me. 100. I was wishful thinking, right? Like, I'm like, oh, look. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get these numbers right for you guys. 400. There's 400 of them, which is quite a lot, right? 400. But Noah didn't take 800 dogs on the ark. You know that, right? Now, that would have been my ark. You know, just bring me the dogs. You know what I mean? But he didn't. He didn't take all 800 dogs on the ark. In fact, most of these breeds didn't even exist yet. Take, for example, my little Klekais. Did you guys know that this breed didn't even exist until 1970? They weren't even on the earth. You understand? Right? So they weren't on the ark. So people are like, oh, so God put all the animals on the ark, including your little huskies? Like, nope, they weren't there. We'll explain how they're here then. Yes, exactly. I would just tell them time. I think you have to accept it. It's my hot word here. So look, these guys didn't even exist until just the few dozen years ago. So, guys, even though that there's 400 breeds of dogs, there's only about 35 species of dogs today. Canis lupus, that's the little wedge, right? So that's not very many, right? So in 500 years, by selecting the traits that we like and pushing out the traits that we didn't like, we ushered in 400 new breeds of dogs. Yes. Yeah? Like, we like this, right? So think about, now, guys, that happened in just 500 years. Think of what could happen in several thousand years. Think of what could happen. Think of how many different variants we could get just in that amount of time. Well, we can imagine it. We don't have to imagine that hard. We can just open our eyes and look around, because we're seeing it right now, guys. Knowing that Noah took 2 of every kind, and not 2 of every animal, but 2 of every kind, and 7 pairs of some, people much, much smarter than me have classified all living and fossilized creatures and landed on some figures. And I'm going to share those figures with you guys, okay? So I promise all this can be backed up, but this is what they've classified all these animals and put them down in numbers for you. I'm going to just fast forward to the good part, okay? So we get down to 1,399 kinds. That's what we've been talking about, right? 1,399 kinds, which equals 6,758 animals. How many animals were on the ark? In this 500 semi-truck capacity ark, how many animals? Less than 7,000. This is making more sense now? God's not crazy, okay? God's not crazy, right? Noah's 500 semi-volume ark loaded less than 7,000 animals for their entirety of their survival cruise. And the big question is that we get all the time when I talk about creation is, were there dinosaurs on the ark? Were there dinos on the ark? And I love that question. I'm going to talk to you guys a lot more about it in greater detail in part 3, but I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to make you wait for 3 weeks to learn this. Of course they were on the ark. Of course they were. Come on, guys. They were real animals, and they breathed air, and God brought them to the ark. Okay, we're going to talk a lot more about this. I hope this bugs you, because I'm going to talk a lot more about this in just a couple of weeks. So that'll keep you guys coming, right? That's what we call a hook. Yeah. So these were real animals. They breathed real air, and God brought them to real Noah, who put them on a real ark. And there's actually plenty of room on the ark, you guys. Plenty of room, because movies like Jurassic Park leave us with the impression that all dinosaurs are enormous. However, the average size of a dinosaur is about the size of a buffalo. But God's not going to bring buffalo-sized dinosaurs on the ark either. He's not going to wait till they're big old buffaloes to bring them on. He's going to bring little dinosaurs on there. He's going to bring them when they're juveniles. He's going to bring them when they're small. They're going to have a greater chance of survival. What's the biggest dinosaur you can think of? Oh, T-Rex was huge, right? T-Rex was huge. What? Yeah, the big with the really long neck, right? Huge one. You see it in Jurassic Park, and it's just like shakes the earth when it drops. Look, did you know that big creature came from an egg this size? The biggest creature that ever lived on the face of the earth came from an egg no bigger than this football. You think a football fit on the ark?
Maybe.
Probably.
Right? Come on, guys. Like this, it doesn't take that. Look, okay, think about the 6-foot-tall velociraptor that we all know and love from Jurassic Park. What's that? Yeah, Bluey. What's that? Or not Bluey. Bluey's the dog. Just Blue. All right, it's fair. Tanya calls him Dad. We love those. Wow, thank God Jurassic Park cleared that up for us. Did you know that a velociraptor is the same size as a chicken? Yeah. Oh, the 3-inch claws are going to scratch your belly and spill out your guts. And Hollywood, that creature never existed. You understand that, right? Well, what about the velociraptor? It's a chicken with spurs and everything. You know what I mean? It's not actually a bird. We're going to talk about that later, because that's a really fun theory. I can't wait to tell you about it. You're going to have so much fun laughing about that. Okay. But we'll get there in just a little bit. So additionally, if that wasn't enough, so we know that giant dinosaurs come in small packages. We know that the most dinosaurs didn't get, like the vast majority of dinosaurs didn't get any bigger than the size of, say, a buffalo, about that size. So God's bringing in juveniles. There are only 60 to 80 dinosaur kinds or families. That's a very small number. We're not talking about large numbers here. And it's much less than all the others. It's about 200 in total. And when you go to the ark and you see it, you're like, oh, this is such a no-brainer. Like, why did I struggle with this? How did I struggle with this? The juvenile sauropod kinds are smaller than cows. They're just a little bit larger than a goat, although they will grow to be the largest land animals that we've ever seen, that God ever created, and we're going to talk more about that later. But I've just kind of wanted to scratch the surface, blow your minds a little bit. Okay, so we talked about the real ark. We talked about how animals fit. I'm gonna digress just a little bit. What about the flood? Okay, if water covered the whole earth, shouldn't there be some evidence of that? Shouldn't we see some evidence if there was a global flood? Oh, I'm telling you guys, there is so much evidence. When you start looking, it will make your head swim. Scripture makes it clear that it could not have been a local flood. That doesn't even make any sense. I know you guys have heard that theory, the local flood. Oh, okay. It just doesn't even make any sense, right? Because then everything could have all the sinners could have just huddled to the outside of the local flood. You know what I'm saying? There's a million other reasons. But guys, it was a global flood. The Bible declares that it was a global event. Genesis 6, 13, 17, 7, 19 through 20. God talks all about how this flood covered the whole earth. So remember that faith is not ignorance, okay? So where is the evidence? Where is the evidence of the flood? Well, it's in the rock layers, and it's in the fossils. Didn't you guys ever wonder when you were kids, did you ever wonder why we weren't finding fossils of like modern creatures? Like, why don't we? It takes very, very special, unique processes to create fossils. The fact that fossils even exist proves the flood. Because they don't happen like when we die, we're going to go into the earth, or our animals die, they're going to go into the earth. We don't become fossils. We become dust. Okay, so fossils take a very, very special, it takes a very special process for that to even happen. So the proof is in the rock layers and in the fossils. And so we're all familiar with the idea that the deeper you dig, the further you go back in time. Right? We're all familiar with that. Aren't we? We all get that. Okay, so the better question is, does it take millions and millions of years for rock layers to form, or can they form more quickly under the right conditions? This is a really, really good question, and I want to show you guys this image. So check this picture out. Look at all those layers. I picked this one out on purpose because there's tons and tons of layers. Look at all those layers. Can you guys see them? They got little layers up here. You can see all those little layers. But in the background here, you can see much bigger layers. Right? So we can see all these layers, and we can see this water running at the bottom. So we know that this has been, this was a river that was on the surface, and it carved itself down to this low point after millions and millions of years. That's how it got there. Okay, so what you guys are looking at, this is 1/40th the scale, so granted a lot smaller, 1/40th the scale of the Grand Canyon. This is called Engineers Canyon. And this canyon was created on March 19th, 1982. It happened at Mount St. Helens. Some of you guys were alive for this event. Some of you guys were on the earth before this canyon existed. And somebody else, I don't know, 80 years from now when we're all not here, is going to come up to this canyon and be like, this probably took millions and millions of years. Look at all these rock layers. No. This happened on March 19th, 1982. And I know what you're thinking. Wow, this happened in one day? Nope, this happened in 9 hours. This didn't take a day. It didn't take millions of years. It didn't take thousands of years. It didn't take a day. It took 9 hours. Guys, it didn't take millions of years. It took a catastrophe. That's what it took. That's what made this happen. A catastrophe happened. Okay? And that's what happened on our earth. The same is true of the Grand Canyon, because we only see the evidence of rapid layer events without any signs of erosion. We just see layer after layer upon layer in rapid succession. Okay, well, what about the fossils? Okay, I have a lot to talk about this, but again, just scratching the surface. I'm going to show a picture that's going to bug you out a little bit. I had a video. I know, gross. Heaven's like, ooh, gross. I had a video. There's actually, you can go online, you can find a video of them teasing this with tweezers. Like, yeah, pulling it, stretching it, twisting it. Okay, guys, what you're looking at is soft tissue from dinosaur bones. So to their credit, they didn't just bury it. You know, some guy in a black suit from the Smithsonian didn't just nab this up. And so thankfully, you know, because of the internet, and it does seem to disappear off the internet from time to time, but you can find that they are discovering soft tissue in dinosaur bones. You know that this is simply not plausible in a millions of years scenario. This is not even possible. If dinosaurs existed only millions and millions of years ago and they went extinct because of whatever processes or event that happened on the earth, you would never find soft tissue in their bones. Never. Guys, it's not even possible. It's only plausible if these bones are a few thousand years old, and I think that's amazing. Yeah. I think it's amazing that soft tissue would even stick around for that amount of time. Okay, so these were kind of the three big issues that I promised to cover in this very, very brief overview. But the ark, the animals, and the flood. But before we close today, I want to bring you guys back to where we started, and I want to talk about the remaining 4 C's of the 7 C's of history. And it's not going to take me very long, so we'll be good. Okay, everybody okay? All right, so I just want to use these 4 C's to illustrate why this flood event is so important. Okay, and then once you know why it's so important, you'll have a better understanding of why the enemy works so hard to take this thing apart. All right? So about 100 years after the flood, I'm going to bring you guys back to our 7 C's. We enter into confusion. God told Noah to multiply and fill the earth. It was his job. Pretty cool job. It was his job. And it was the job of all the animals that were on the ark, on the earth, on the ark, who remained on the earth. Woo! I struggle to get all that out there, man. Okay, so that was their job. He said, I want you guys to multiply and repopulate the earth. Well, they listened to like 50% of what God said. They multiplied, but they didn't spread out across the earth. They multiplied, but they just kind of stayed right where they were. Right? They just kind of hunkered down in this one place, which is exactly what God told them not to do. And eventually they built this big tower, this ziggurat, like a temple. They built this big tower, and God judged their disobedience. You guys remember that obedience is the love language of God. So their disobedience garnered some more judgment. So he had to judge their disobedience. He confused their language, the language of heaven, the language that Adam spoke, the language that we will speak again. He confused that language, right? And then he spread them, caused confusion, and spread them. And we know that place as Babel. You guys ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Okay, so this forced mankind to spread out across the earth, and that's where we get different people groups. Guys, that's where we get different ethnicities. That's where we get different cultures. That's why I always try to tell you guys, we are of one race. We are of the human race. So stop with all the divisions in race. We all belong to one race, okay? It's so important that we understand this. And it's important because the world is going to know us by our love, and we're dividing each other because of our skin colors or whatever the other reasons are, or the foods that we eat or whatever. Guys, we all belong to one race. We all came from Adam. Adam populated. We got winnowed down to Noah, and then we all came from Noah, right? So we see a little bottleneck there, but we all come from the same place. But Babel is what explains all the other people groups and all the other ethnicities and all the other cultures. And here's what's really interesting. I'm just trying to hit you guys with a bunch of interesting things today to keep you excited about what we're talking about, is that nearly every people group in the world has their own flood legend. Did you guys know that? How is that possible? Well, it's really easy to explain from a biblical view and really hard to explain from a secular worldview. So how do 300 ethnicities have a similar account to the one in our Bible? How on earth does that happen? Guys, it's really, really very simple, right? They all have that legend because they were all together at the Tower of Babel. They were all in one place at one time, listening to Noah and Ham and Shem and Japheth. They were listening to these guys. And like a really bad game of telephone and without history in writing, these stories were passed down until they became legend. And then it became the legend of the thing. Now we're fortunate enough to have some written history, but the reason Satan has put so much effort in distorting or rewriting the first 4 C's of history is because they are fundamentally important. They're foundational to the last 3 C's, beginning with Christ. The first promise of Christ is mentioned in Genesis 3:15. All the way back in the beginning of your Bible, we see the first promise of a Christ. The enemy would bruise his heel. That means he would have him killed. You guys remember this? But he would crush the enemy's head, which means what? That he would have victory over death. Okay? After Genesis, the entire focus of the Bible is Christ. It's his coming and his coming again. The entire focus of the Bible. We need the cross because of what happened in Genesis 3. If Genesis 3 didn't happen, we don't need the cross. Jesus came for nothing. But that's not true. He did not come for nothing. He came for something, and the something was us. Adam made a sin problem, and Jesus was the solution. Jesus was the solution to that problem. And believing on Jesus for your salvation is an important choice to make now. Because just like the people of Noah's day, guys, just like it was in Noah's day, they suffered judgment. Guys, there's another judgment coming. And Jesus is the ark of our generation. Jesus is our ark. And the doors are flung wide open. And everyone's invited. Everyone is invited to get onto this ark and escape this judgment. just like it was in Noah's day. 2 Peter 3, 3 through 4 warns us about it. He said it's going to be just like it was in Noah's day. Guys, I just read you a bunch of threads from these people who are reacting to just a picture of the ark. This guy wasn't like, you should all be Christian. He just showed a picture of him and his wife on a motorcycle. How innocent is that? And all of this hate. Guys, just like Noah's day. What are you doing, Noah? Oh, building a boat, you old coot. Heard from God, did you? Yeah, I bet. Rain. Whoo. Right? Can you imagine all the trash talking was going on to Noah? All the flack that he was taking? Oh, God's going to judge us, is he? Okay, you and your God. Like all that. Look, it's the same thing. Guys, we experience the same thing today. Just like Noah's day. People are going to scoff at creation. They're going to scoff at the flood. They're going to scoff at Noah. They're going to scoff at the ark. How can you believe that? That's not possible. These things are silly. What a fairy tale. On and on and on and on and on. And if those things aren't true, then the gospel isn't true. You understand? If those things aren't true, the gospel isn't true. But the gospel is linked to the history. A history that finds its consummation with the return of Christ and a new heaven and a new earth. And it is absolute foolishness to those who perish. But to those who are being saved, to those who believe in their God, it is life unto life. That's us. So I hope that I've at least piqued your curiosity. This is just a general overview. We're going to talk more in detail about these other issues in the weeks to come. So wear your t-shirts. Be ready to fly your time wands. We're going to have a lot of fun. Okay. The evolutionists are making a lot of fun of us. Okay. So turn around is fair play. So we just God says He's going to make all of their knowledge is laughable to Him, foolishness unto God. All of our supposed knowledge. So we should just believe what He said. Just do ourselves a lot of favor, keep that egg off of our face, and just believe what God said the first time around. Okay? Is that making sense? All right. Hey, I love you guys. I hope that you're enjoying all the stuff. I hope you grab a t-shirt, and I hope you're excited about the next 3 weeks. I am. I've been really looking forward to this series. It's been really way too long since I've got to talk to you guys about dinosaurs, which is so cool. Thanks again for getting the sanctuary looking cool for us. I appreciate it. Super, super fun. I hope that you guys will all come to the picnic today, but I'm going to have Tanya close us out. You can come on up here, sweetheart, if you want. I'm going to pray for you guys real quick. So, Lord, I just thank you that you just bless your people in the name of Jesus. I thank you that you show them, God. Show them what the truth is. Show them the reality of your word, the reality of your kingdom,